Welcome back to the show. Well, in a special themed issue titled The New Nationalism, a portrait of Canada at a crossroads, Maclean's magazine is exploring Canada's identity just in time for Canada Day.
Often referred to as a complacent country, the issue dives into all things Canada, from how to fight back against Trump's tariff war to why resilience is at the heart of our national identity. Here to tell us more is the Editor-in-Chief of Maclean's, Sarah Fulford. Welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here again.
Okay, Sarah, this seems like an incredibly timely issue, but talk about your decision leading up to this idea of dedicating the entire July issue to nationalism.
Sure. So it's Maclean's 120th anniversary issue, and it came...
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow.
It came at a time when we were... Canada was going through a real transition. The idea of Canada, as Justin Trudeau used to call it, a post-national state. Mm-hmm. So what does that even mean? Mm-hmm. Where was Canada situated? We used to not want to display flags because of its colonial history, and then truckers were displaying flags because they were anti-government and anti-vaxxer. So we found ourselves embarking on the journey of this issue, trying to imagine where Canada was, and right around that time, Trump was threatening to invade our country. So that was, in a weird way, a bit of a favor that Trump did, because it forced us to take ownership of what it meant to be Canadian and to redefine it. It's a wide open question. What does Canada mean today? And that was the theme we wanted to explore.
Really interesting, fascinating. So the opening essay is written by Stephen Marr, and it unpacks the idea that Canada's identity has always been forged in resistance to America. Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. So it's good to kick things off with a bit of history. And of course, our very identity as Canadians started in a loyalist past in resistance to America. And we have a long tradition in this country of defining ourselves against what America is. That was our origin story. And right now, we're looking out at America and we're seeing radical polarization, militarization, imperialism, and a very unstable, destabilizing president. And we are looking at that and saying, I don't think we want that. We are something different. And that's a great starting place for forging our own identity, as we have done traditionally.
Absolutely. All right, so in this issue, it lists 8 bold ideas that Canada should implement to resist U.S. aggression. We want to go through a couple of them, starting with the first one on the list, which is the Canadian military. What is the recommendation there?
Right, so we started by asking, if we are going to stand on our own 2 feet, what does Canada need to do to reimagine itself on the world stage? And a brilliant University of Toronto professor brought up an idea that actually is very relevant today, because as you know, Carney at a NATO gathering of leaders committed to 5% investment of our GDP in the military. That is a radical growth of where we are now. We are a country of 41 million people, and we have about 63,000 full-time troops. We really couldn't defend anything if we were tasked with it. We are used to thinking of ourselves as peacekeepers, as diplomats, as good citizens. That's not going to cut it if we can't rely on our American neighbors militaristically, and we are going to have to reinvest in our military.
Interesting.
That's big.
We're going to jump to what's 4th on the list, which is immigration.
Right.
What should Canada be focusing on, and how is Winnipeg doing it right?
Well, one of the interesting, brilliant thinkers that contributed to our package talked about immigration. It was a very hot subject in the last election. Maybe one of the reasons Trudeau resigned was because we brought in a huge number of immigrants really quickly without properly planning for their arrival. And our infrastructure couldn't really handle it. It was very polarizing, which is too bad, because this is a country that is built on immigration, and we are not replenishing our population on having babies alone. So we actually need counterintuitively much more immigration, and possibly not just in GTA and Vancouver, which there are plenty of places. Sault Ste. Marie, Winnipeg is where the author of this article is from, that are smaller sized cities that are looking for growth and want that density. And that's going to, if we're going to compete on the world stage, we need to have a bigger population.
So Winnipeg is actually doing things in that direction.
That was the author's assertion, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay, on the front lines of the trade war, which is still happening, just with so many other competing headlines, it feels like, are small and medium-sized businesses. And the issue features the stories of 5 different Canadian business owners who are navigating these unprecedented times. So was there a story that actually stood out for you?
For sure. I mean, that's one of the things I love about magazine journalism is telling the human story behind these big headlines we're hearing about. And the tariffs of the last few months have destabilized so many Canadians in their businesses. There was one story that really got our attention. It's the president, it was actually, she did the piece herself, the president of Steam Whistle Brewery. So Tall Boy beers, you know, the big cans that are gonna be very popular around Canada Day. Her company sources the aluminum from Quebec and then ships it to the States to be processed, and then it gets shipped back. So all of a sudden she was facing, her business was facing $1 million more in costs due to the tariffs than she had anticipated. So she didn't want to pass that on to the consumer, and she was up at night stressing about this. This is a big, big blow. The twist in this story is that in May, the company that processed the aluminum in the States decided they were actually going to relocate to Canada to make it easier for their Canadian businesses to have.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's great.
So this is like the exact opposite of what Trump wanted. He wanted to keep manufacturing in the US, and as a result of these crazy rules that are very poorly thought through, we're actually taking ownership of our own business story.
Wow.
I love
Cool
that.
story.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's great to hear. Okay, but we have to talk about the rhetoric about Canada becoming the 51st state, which of course Trump has been saying ever since he took office. And Stephen Mayer says there's nothing that we could do to stop them. So can you elaborate on why he said that?
So he spoke to some military experts who did say that at this very moment, if America wanted to invade Canada, we'd be very defenseless. But I actually think one of the things that this issue illustrates, and that the surge of new nationalism illustrates, and we'll see it displayed this Canada Day, is we have an incredible resilience and a desire to own our own story and to arm ourselves, quote unquote, in a million different ways that I don't think, I think we'll persevere into the future.
We're making new friends.
Good answer.
Too.
We like that.
Sarah,
Love that.
thank you so much for being
you.
here. Everyone needs to know about this episode, this issue. So make sure that you pick up the July issue of Maclean's magazine. It is out now. Go support a Canadian institution, and don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.